Hi, my name is Stefan Sittig, and I'm a director, choreographer, and fight director in the Washington, D.C. area. For the past 25 years, I've worked on over 90 productions, including professional and non-professional, off-Broadway in New York City, internationally, regionally across the country, and for various community theaters and dinner theaters and colleges and universities. I'm a multiple Watch Award winner and nominee, and I wanted to share with you today a few of my tips and what I think of when I'm looking at choreography to evaluate it. I have a system called the 4 S's. I use that system because my name is Stefan Sittig and I like the letter S. The first of the 4 S's is story. Story is what is happening on stage. What is the story that the person who wrote the piece is trying to tell? And you as the choreographer have to tell that story. So that means making sure that your dancing, your choreography, everything that you create for the stage helps to tell the story of those characters. Who are they? What are they like? How do they move? How do they dance? You should never stop the story with dancing. And sometimes you'll see some shows where there's a long period of dancing, and that's okay. Dancing is fine, and long periods of it is typical in a musical. But you want to have continuity of story. So if it's going to be a long dance piece, you want to be telling some sort of story in that piece. You want to have something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that helps convey the plot or give some character development in the story. Because otherwise, you don't want to feel like you're in a dance studio and suddenly everyone's just standing there dancing and you forget what show you're in, and it could fit in any show. It needs to be really specific to the show itself. So that's the first S, story. The second S is style. Style is, what is this piece like? What period is it from? What kind of story is it trying to tell in terms of the way that it's put together? Shows have a varying degrees of style to them, and sometimes the style can come from the choreography. But if you're working on a piece that's a revival, that you're choreographing something that's a show that's already been done, and a lot of times in community theaters and a lot of the stuff that the Watch Award judges judge is a revival because it's been done already on Broadway or it's been done somewhere else regionally. So in that case, there is probably already a style attached to the piece. And therefore, it would really behoove the choreographer to understand and know that style and to work with the creative team, the director and the music director, to be sure that they're honoring that style. So, for example, if you're choreographing a Bob Fosse show, like Chicago or Sweet Charity, you certainly I don't think, want to veer too far from that style because that's what people are coming to see. It's so well known. That's such a huge style mark that people are going to want to come to see that in the choreography. If you're working on a new piece that nobody's seen, that's great because then you have more freedom as a choreographer to create your own style for the piece. And I like to look at that piece and see when is it set, what are the characters like, what is the tone of the piece, and that helps me to sort of develop that style for that piece. So the second S is style. The third S is skills. I like to do an inventory of the skills of my cast members. What can the people that are in the show do? Why? Because if I just focus on what I can do, it's not as broad. I like to dance, I have some experience, but I may not be good at 1 or 2 other specific things, and I may have a cast member that is. So I like to do an inventory of skills. I do that in auditions, I do it again at callbacks, I ask people to show me what they can do. And what do I mean by those skills? If they can do any gymnastics, if they can do cartwheels, if they have any special tricks or fun things that they can do. I have an actor in a production right now who can juggle. So those are things that I'm going to feature as long as they fit in the 2 other S's, and they fit in story and style, then the skills can be really, really important. And when you're choreographing, I think it's always good to go beyond what it is that you can do. So when looking at choreography, you want to see that there's a broad range of skills in the cast. And in those skills, how are they used? How did the choreographer use the varying degrees of skills in the cast? So if all the cast members are dancing the exact same moves all the time, then it's going to be really obvious to you watching as a judge that some of them are more skilled at the dance than others. So I don't usually do that. I don't think that's a good use of the varying skills in a community theater cast. I tend to go ahead and give the different skill-leveled cast members different versions of the choreography. So I'll usually create an A, B, and a C version of the piece. I don't necessarily tell the actors that. I just incorporate it while I'm choreographing. And so the people that are in one place could be doing a different thing than people that are in front or behind. And it gives a different overall bigger feel for the piece. And it's not just 15 people doing the exact same thing all the time. So knowing the skills of your cast is super, super important, and being able to inventory those skills and use them fully in a production. So the third S is skills. The fourth S is space. Now that's one that I think people really do think a lot about when they're in the audience. So what do I mean by space? Where is the production taking place? If you are seeing a show in a theater in the round, that's going to be a different feel than a show that's in proscenium, that's more of a traditional flat stage. So I think as someone sitting in the audience, you have to think, how did the choreographer address the issue of the space? If the space is really large and it's in the round, that's a different style of choreography. That means the audience is looking at the piece from a lot of different angles, and different parts of the audience are seeing different things. So you have to always be super conscious about not giving anyone the back so they just see the back of the actor. The actors have to constantly be moving. It's a lot more of a kinesthetic kind of show when that's happening. And then if you're in the regular proscenium, things are a little flatter. Audience doesn't have as much depth perception. So you've got to find ways to pull actors out into from the background into the foreground and vice versa, and use the length of the stage as well. So I think the space that you're in, whether it's large, small, or in the round, proscenium, thrust, that moves, means that the stage is pushed forward and the audience is on all three sides, that's super influential as well. So just keep in mind, did the choreographer pay attention to that, or did they just do it the same way no matter what space they're in? So space is the final S, and it's super important. So, to wrap it up, there are 4 S's that I like to look at when I'm evaluating choreography. First is story. Second, style. Third, skills. And fourth, space. I think if you look at choreography through those 4 lenses, you will really have a really good idea of what's going on stage and be able to evaluate it fairly.